This is William Trotter, Trotter, of Art in Appalachia class for the spring semester of 2013 at East Tennessee State University. Dr. Tess Lloyd is the instructor. I am here at the Art Annex at ETSU in the Ceramics Wing Department studio with Sherry Maddox Murphy, instructor here at ETSU in 3D design. Anything else? Oh yeah. She's also a graduate student. And anything other than 3D design? Okay, nothing other than 3D design. And we are here in her studio at the Art Annex, as I said, and we'll go ahead and begin. First question, plain and simple, what is your name? Which I may or may not have already said, but what is your name and your year of birth?
Sherry Maddox Murphy, and I was born in 1979.
And
Carter was still in office.
I might be one of the only ones around here that remembers that, other than you. And you were born where?
In Harrisonburg, Virginia.
I'd forgotten that, actually.
Yeah, I'm from the Blue Ridge Mountains too. So.
And then you were raised in?
I was raised there until I was 14, and then we moved to Roanoke, Virginia, and continued on there and traveled around a bit.
So you were raised in Virginia, but you actually made your way out to Colorado at some point,
yes.
Huh?
Yes, that was after a year of graduate school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So not as long as I remembered or thought.
No, it's almost 3 years ago now. It all seems like a long time.
You just seem more like a Colorado person.
That's what I was always told, so that's why I went there.
Just because of that?
It worked out.
You seem like a Colorado person.
Colorado
okay.
or Montana.
Sure, okay,
so
why not?
That's where I found a place. Yeah.
Well, I always grew up you still live in Tennessee.
Tennessee is an interesting place.
It can be.
It is an interesting place.
I actually went out and about Hawkins County today for another class, which shall remain nameless. Basic photography, Joshua Greer.
Oh yes, Josh's classes. I bet he had you looking for all sorts of crazy stuff.
Well, it was. This is a little off topic, but it's landscape project. But the definition of landscape is open to interpretation.
And Tennessee has a lot of varied landscape.
Yeah, I think he likes to subscribe to the Jeff Rich philosophy of landscape painting. It's not just a pretty mountain and trees, everything in focus, but if you put like a white trash trailer park in between you and the pretty mountain and trees,
you've got a landscape.
Then it's a lot more interesting.
It definitely is. Good Lord. That is something that's been an interesting part of being in Tennessee for almost 4 years now. I don't know. Yeah.
And I actually went down to Phipps Bend, which was the nuclear power plant that was never completed.
Wow, they just give up?
It's down there right on the Holston River in between Sir Gowinsville and Rogersville.
Oh, wow.
And I guess it was a TVA project. And they hired everybody that was going to work there, moved them to the area, put them up in company housing, and when the plant was halfway done, they just gave up on it. And it's still sitting there.
Where did the people go?
Wherever they could.
Wow.
I guess back to wherever they came from, or they stayed there. But it still sits there, just hollowed out. The core of the reactor is gone, and it's pretty
depressing.
eerie, but
Awkward.
But there's actually a film class from ETSU where a group has actually been given permission to shoot a movie inside of the reactor, the cooling tower, and everything.
Oh, wow.
Like a post-apocalyptic or zombie apocalypse type movie.
Yeah, we need another zombie movie.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have enough of those. All right, back on topic though. So we've got your name, we've got where you were born and raised, and so the year that you moved to East Tennessee.
2009.
2009.
Fall of 2009. Well, actually, it was more like June of 2009, but.
Was it straight to the Johnson City, Jonesboro area?
Johnson City, Tree Streets.
Oh, yeah.
Straight into the Tree Streets. Moved right across the street from a frat house.
Frat house, art student, art teacher.
It was fun to watch. It was definitely an experience to watch.
Does that give you any subject matter?
A comedy factor.
Wait.
Definitely. Subject, not so sure about all that. Well, the first year of grad school is never quite what you think it's going to be. You don't get a whole lot done. You try to, it's kind of like being reborn or something. It's weird.
I can imagine that.
It's a little strange.
Since I'm a second degree, 20 years removed student,
Yeah.
second degree student, I can kind of
It's like being
imagine the
born.
rebirth and with going back to school and
Been a culture shock of moving to East Tennessee. Yeah. It was special.
I went from Kingsport to UT, Knoxville, Atlanta, and back to Kingsport, ETSU. So
Yeah, I came straight from Roanoke to here, and that was quite the interesting adventure. It was very pretty.
Yeah.
It was very pretty.
So you straight from Roanoke to here. Not Colorado first.
Nope.
No.
That came a year later
No.
when I ran away from grad school.
You ran away.
Oh yeah.
Why'd you do
Well.
that? Or is that something that can be discussed on?
Oh no, it was great. You come in. I've been told, and a very wonderful woman who is the chair of our department that said that grad school is a cauldron of crazy. And she said, and we're all here just stirring it up. So anything that can happen in grad school will happen. I initially came to East Tennessee with a partner, married. And by the end of that first year, there was no longer that situation. So kind of went off to find myself again and figure out who I was. And that's how I ended up in Colorado.
No.
I went out there, I drove out there by myself and had a friend in Fort Collins, and I stayed with her and her family and found myself a place to live and job, and that's where I live.
I've got a friend, he's actually the head of the Bristol Rhythm and Roots Reunion Project, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And he goes out to Aspen and lives every winter out there.
It's a good place to live. We live in Winter Park, so.
And then another 3 to 6 months in Bristol to do the Bristol Rhythm and Roots
And then it goes
Reunion
back to
concert.
Aspen.
Then to Aspen, and then the rest of the year wherever.
It's a good life.
I don't know how he keeps finding different jobs to keep him occupied every single year, but
It's different. The climate of employment out west is a lot different than it is
a
here.
lot more seasonal. Or
It is seasonal, definitely, and people have 2 or 3 jobs, not just one, and you're not looking for the same things. You kind of do something that fits into your life a bit more than just something you do to make money.
so like professional waiter, part-time artist.
Or a full-time artist, part-time waiter. Yeah, because it gives you the flexibility. And
Kind of like LA with full-time actors, part-time
whatever's. Yeah.
part-time barista.
Yeah, I do that too. But I did come here solely for school, though. I had never been to Johnson City. before. Well, I came to visit one day, and I stayed with Don Davis, who's my head professor here in this department.
He's the one who thought I was Ashley's father.
Oh.
Ashley from our 3D design class.
Oh, wow.
I was walking around here that one day when we came to get our styrofoam projects, or actually, no, it's when we came and got our breakfast design projects. And I was like wandering around looking for it, and Ashley had it, and so he asked me what I was doing here and whose father I was.
Oh dear.
Me being 40 and everybody else being 18 to 22, he thought I was a student's father.
You were one of my students, though. I'm nobody's daddy that I know of. Maybe.
Then I also got the question first day of this semester at the little cafe if I wanted the faculty discount. So
She said, yeah.
I figured they'd ID me then, but
No, probably not.
oh well. Let's see what we've got here now. So we talked about you moving to East Tennessee from Roanoke, and what brought you here with school and everything. When and where did you get your training as an artist or crafts person?
Well, that all started in Roanoke, Virginia as well. I have a funny educational history. I dropped out of high school and started work and traveled. I always wanted to travel these places, and I got my GED, and that was the same month I would have gotten my regular high school diploma. So
Bonus.
Yes, bonus, and we passed it with very good scores. And then I went straight into community college because I knew that was the only way I was ever going to get into a four-year college. I was bored in high school, and I had done a lot of art in high school and was continuing that. And my first degree was supposed to be in communication design. Now they would call it
Commercial art.
Commercial art, yeah.
So David Dixon type of stuff.
Yes. And I was almost through my first associate's
Oh, that's
degree.
David Dixon, professor of, they call it now commercial art and graphic design, intro to graphic design.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you there.
That's okay. But I was 2 credits, two classes away from completing that degree, and I took a ceramics class and fell in love and stopped pursuing the associate's degree and opened my own business.
I actually fell in love with ceramics a couple of times when I was sitting out there, but I think those students are gone now.
They probably are. Yeah, so I guess I wanted to see if this thing that I was so fascinated with could make me money. And so I approached a friend's grandma.
So you're in it for the money, right? That's what you're saying.
I just wanted to see if it was something that was viable as a career, even in a small scale.
One of those do what you love and you never work a day in your life sort of things.
I
And
believe
if you
that.
can make money while doing it, then bonus, all the better.
I believe that. I live by that, and my life is completely about that at this point in time. But that started, so I went to Virginia Western Community College in Roanoke, Virginia, or Harvard on the Hill as they called it, and ended up, they took us to the Roanoke County Rec Center, and that's where we had our classes because we didn't have an on-site facility. And lo and behold, one of my high school friends, her grandmother ran the facility, and it was really interesting because that was a friend that I used to help run away when we were in high school. But me and her grandmother made amends, and she ended up helping me open my first studio. She helped me get a wheel, and I procured a kiln from Marion, Virginia, and she helped me order glazes and clay materials from various sources that she had.
And where was that studio?
In Roanoke.
In Roanoke.
Yeah, it was in Roanoke. And she helped me start all that, and I ran that business for another 7 or 8 years after that, while going to Collins University, which is also in Roanoke, Virginia, and finishing my undergrad. I have a BA from there in studio ceramics and a certificate in nonprofit organization management. And that's a really long title for saying I want to be poor forever. I'm dedicated to poverty. And then after...
Yeah, if you go to the photography studio over in Ball Hall, there's actually a big sign in there that says, I don't always talk to art students, but when I do, I ask for extra fries.
That's true. It is true. Or you want to refill with that. Yeah. Yeah. But
Venti or Grande.
yeah, definitely. That's the truth. I know a couple people work for Starbucks. But yeah, I only left with a BA, and apparently that's something that people find intriguing, but I've found really common. Your BFA is negotiably inconsequential in the world.
Really?
Yeah.
How so?
I know a lot of people that get into grad school that don't have BFAs.
Huh.
There are a lot of people, if you have a BA and your portfolio looks good, it actually means that I took a foreign language and you didn't. So theoretically, I may be smarter.
That's why I like having gone to UT before coming here to ETSU, because everything that I took 20 years ago transferred.
Did it?
Yeah.
It wasn't a dead you didn't have a dead degree?
No.
How'd they do that?
Hey, you got me.
Don't tell anybody out in that room, because I know somebody that didn't.
But even computer science from 1991 transferred to 2012.
Don't tell anybody that. Shh, you didn't hear that. But so I ended up doing that and realized I had set a goal for myself that I would finish college by the time I was 30. And 27 started slipping up on me really quick, so I panicked and I went to Hollins University in Roanoke, Virginia. They gave me a really nice financial aid package, and I had never had any interest in going to an all-girls school. And that's what it was.
I have.
I know you have. I was kind of freaked out by the whole concept of it. But it turned out to be one of the best experiences of my life. It was amazing. I met two of my most influential people in my life, Donna Pulsino and Rick Hensley. They are potters from Floyd, Virginia, who are part of the 16 Hands. And
Floyd, Virginia is where all the bluegrass hippies like to go for Floyd.
That is right, and I've worked that many a time. But yeah, so I ended up being their work-study studio assistant and just kind of immersed myself and wanted to know everything, and worked with their apprentice, Kayla Stein. She went on to Alfred for graduate school, which is a really prestigious in the art and the ceramic community graduate school. So she went on to there, and I stayed behind and still worked in the studio and graduated, and then I was done and was like, what am I going to do now? And about that same time, I got diagnosed with MS. And
I didn't know that.
yeah, I don't tell people lots of stuff. I'm an onion.
Layers.
I've got many layers. Where would that have ever come up? Well, there were a couple of times I wanted to tell Sam. You weren't in that class the next semester.
Well, I know Sam's got some issues with her knee joints.
Yeah.
And such.
Yeah. I never brought any of it up, but yeah, after that diagnosis...
I see her every now and then. She's got graphic arts right after I do.
She's a good girl.
But she's got, I can't remember her name. She's Czech or Belgian. I think she's got the exhibit in Ball Hall. Yeah. Couldn't remember her name,
But after that diagnosis, my life really changed, and that kind of motivated me going to grad school. Because I was like, okay, what are you going to do if something happens? So I ended up here by hook and crook, and some people had gone. Rick and Donna had actually gone to grad school with Don Davis, and we're like, hey, we have this friend, and we think you get along with him, and it's only 3 hours away from your doctor, so if you need something, it won't be so hard to get it here. So we did that, and that's how I ended up in East Tennessee. Yeah.
So, yeah, you would. I'm going to go back in time here a little bit, but you had said that you left high school, but you ended up getting your
My
GED.
GED.
Around the same time as you would have graduated anyway. So, did you? Not really sure how to put this together, but did you find that actually helped you make the transition into your art education, or
I don't know. It's like
did it like force you to take a look at things a little differently?
It gave me the time, maybe, to look at things. Well, it's funny. You hear everybody. I think you hear a lot of people that are artists say, "Well, when I was a little kid, I've been an artist since I was a child." And I'm sitting here thinking that I don't want to say that, but it's true. It's that thing that you've always done, and you knew you were going to do it somehow. So you find any way you can to do it, wherever you are, whether it's doodling on a napkin or building a pile of sand somewhere, So I don't know. I think maybe that's why I was so bored. After I got older, they came out with these art schools, like high schools and stuff, and I totally would have fit into that because the way I learn is so like hands-on and practical, and it was always really difficult. So I think me dropping out of high school I was bored and in a weird place that I didn't want to be, and I just wanted to go off and do other things and see stuff. But now within my work, up to this moment, it's all about travel and all about life experiences and how those shape and affect the way I'm thinking about things in my studio. So I think that, it was a good thing. I don't live in regret.
Yeah.
There's no point in it. So I think that looking back, I would do it again.
Yeah. Back when I was in high school and I, made the decision to go to UT and major in advertising, I got harassed by some of my high school teachers. One was my radio and TV instructor.
Because you got a radio voice.
They seem to think so.
You do, still. You were always our announcer in class.
Yeah, and also my art teacher, because she knew there would be some creative sides to the advertising degree at UT, but back then they mainly focused more on the business/account side, and so they knew I was going to school to be trained to be one of those pricks in the suit that go on all the sales presentations to bring in new business and whatnot. And after about 10-15 years of that, I realized that wasn't really what I like to do, and I missed the chance to be creative. So once I had my accident and moved back here, that's what kind of led me to come here. And then I had your class, very practical and very hands-on, which I liked.
Yeah, and that's what I believe in, is hands-on stuff and figuring it out, and like, how does that work? Because if I tell you, and I told you guys this all the time, is if I tell you exactly what you're supposed to do, then isn't it my work?
Yeah.
It's like, and your class had some amazing things happen in it. And
I always thought it was the best class I've taken thus far to prepare you for BFA and the portfolio review, because you actually teach people the elements and principles of design and make them think about it every day.
Oh crap, I did my job.
Yeah.
Don't tell anybody. And you're not just being nice because we're sitting here together. No, I really, it's kind of funny. I don't particularly like to teach, but I end up having fun doing it. And with a good group of people, you guys kind of build on each other. And you had a good group, and you got to make cool stuff you never thought you'd make.
And what I liked is, especially on critique days, if somebody says something about your piece that you don't agree with, you don't have to sit there and nod your head.
No.
and say, okay, fine, and just take it and go on to the next person. So,
No, you don't. We
that
talked
inspired
about
me to make a girl cry in my color theory class.
it. Shouldn't make you. Like, if it happened.
Well, it didn't make me. It just
But
inspired me.
but to be honest, we call it constructive criticism, and
But the piece was on communist propaganda. So,
Ooh, so something you're very well versed in.
well, actually, growing up during the Cold War, yeah.
Yeah, see, we've all seen it. It's still around in places.
Everybody else in the class, they're 19, 20 years
No
old.
idea.
So the only basis of thought that they had for propaganda came in 2008 with the Barack Obama hope
Oh yeah.
and
Yeah,
progress
I have no idea.
and change, and not the iron fist of the Iron Curtain.
And that is a different thing even for me. I mean, I'm 33.
I grew up thinking every day that
Bomb
the bomb
shelters.
was going to drop.
I knew how to turn my desk over as an elementary school
Oh yeah,
kid.
I knew that covering my head was going to protect me from an atomic nuclear explosion.
Yes, that was totally going. It would help you evaporate in a very much
Exactly.
more efficient way. Way more efficient.
Already
way.
bending over on your knees and kissing your ass goodbye.
That is right. It's over. It's over. That's funny.
All right.
So yeah, this is an interesting question. Did you engage in any type of continuing education?
I was getting ready to go into that.
I like that question. I guess I'm continuing my education,
I would say so.
pursuing my MFA. But I think as an artist, that's a weird question because I think you never stop learning.
Right.
Because when you stop learning, you stop doing. I mean, if I knew everything, then I'd be rich and not ever know. Things change, and there's new technology and old technology that you discover, and different ways of doing stuff. I guess so. Yeah. Besides graduate school, I'm constantly looking for different things to know and find and read and learn how to do.
It's kind of like me with the photography, having only a digital background with it, and then going to basic photography with Josh Greer and learning the whole actual. There's still film that actually needs to be developed, and
I have a whole can of 35 millimeter.
and actually learning the process behind it, and actually how you turn it from snapping a picture into an actual artistic process.
Learning to dodge
and burn.
And add your filters. We did that.
Dodge and burn, spot tone.
I learned how to do that in community college. I had the professor I had there, she had worked for the Forestry Service out in Utah and in Yellowstone. So, I mean, I went to a strangely exceptional community college, and that's what pushed me to go further. It was interesting. When you have people like that are teaching you, that have been out in the real world. And I think I've found that the people I've learned from the most in my existence have been people who had their own careers and come back to teach later. And they're not just teaching academically, so to speak. They're like out there doing it. And ETSU is fortunate to have several professors that have done that.
Yeah, no, I just got out of Don Dixon's class, and he worked in Atlanta at advertising agencies for years, like I did, and I don't think our paths ever crossed.
We have Mike Smith, who's in the Guggenheim, and he's part of their permanent collection. We have Travis Graves and Catherine Murray and all sorts of people running around here that have. So you never stop participating, and being an instructor, you're learning constantly too. I mean, yeah, you're instructing, you have the idea, but people are different, and they are always going to look at things in such a different way.
So, this next question says, when did you set up your studio? Now, we talked about your first one that you set up in Roanoke.
Well, I had two there. So, yeah. The first one was pretty basic, in my mother's basement, with one electric kiln and a old school kick wheel and a really ghetto ventilation system. And then later bought a house and set up a full studio, and that was pretty nice, and then came here. So I guess this studio here it gets reborn every semester.
The studio here at ETSU
Yeah.
or home studio?
No, this one this is the only one I have currently, and it gets reborn every semester when new people come and go.
You don't have one at home?
No, I live in an old store in Jonesboro.
Whoa.
So it's
Actually, I've seen some places around Kingsport, and I've always thought that might actually be cool.
It's pretty amazing. No, I live in this little old store by.
Has it been
the
like
gazebo.
renovated into a loft?
It
or?
has. It's been. I'm the only person to ever live in it, except for the little old man that used to live in the back room, which is now my kitchen, that ran the general store there. And it's beside the well in Jonesboro, where all the people from Jonesboro used to go and get their water. There's a spring there that's still there, and there's a frog that lives in it. And it's good, and it's by the creek at the gazebo.
Is there legend of any healing properties of
No,
this?
just thirst
These springs?
quenching.
Okay. Yeah, it's one of the things that we talked about in class in art and Appalachia class, when people came down through the Great Road and visited all the different springs in the area.
No, Jonesboro though is the oldest town in Tennessee.
Yep.
So it's really been an experience to live there. After moving here to Johnson City the first time, I decided coming back that the city part wasn't the life for me. And
farm living is the life for me.
Yeah, 3 acres. Well, Jonesboro is the cutest, cleanest little place you've ever been, and it seemed perfect because it was a place that I can use the window as a showcase for my work as people pass by. Have a yard for my friends to put their sculptures in, and for me to put sculptures in the stream behind the house. So I do.
That kind of sounds like a question that's later on the list. A little foreshadowing there.
We'll get there.
We'll get there.
We'll get there.
No, go ahead.
But this studio has been here, like in this configuration since the beginning of last semester, and I share it with Melissa Caudell, and she's an amazing. She's been an amazing influence. She works in all sorts of media, so she's clay and everything. So I get to see a bunch of.
Are those her people over there?
Yes, those are her people.
What are the people made of?
They are made
tissue paper
of toilet paper and
Yeah.
resins, and there's some clay lining. Some of them,
Yeah.
all sorts of stuff. They're very
I
interesting.
would flash the camera over there, but I'm going to convert this all to audio anyway, so I'll get a picture of it later.
But her style of working and mine seem completely different, but the way we think about things is incredibly similar, and I've been blessed to have her as a studio mate for the last 2 years. So, it's like having a big sister to be like, what am I doing? She's like, you're fine. So, it's been awesome. Did you need to reset your camera?
All right, so we talked about your current studio here at ETSU, and approximately how many hours per week do you spend in here?
Wow, all of them. Fewer right now than I have ever. Leading up to my graduate exhibition, which was in February, I was here about sometimes 16 hours a day. It's pretty rough. Me and 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock sometimes, we're very good friends.
But you had your coffee.
I did. Lots of it.
I mean, you don't drink a lot of coffee.
Oh, I do.
Oh.
Well, mass quantities.
Yeah.
Quantities. I like my coffee. It's good. But I think that I have always treated my studio time like what people would term as a real job. So, I roll in about 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning and leave about 7 or 8 at night. I try to. And it all depends on what part of the process you're in. If you're making stuff, there's certain things you can get away with there. And things do need time to rest and dry. And then if you're in the glazing process, that's a whole different kind of time frame and,
Mm-hmm.
and firing and then cooling and then starting over again. So it's this wash, rinse, repeat cycle. So I would say definitely 40 hours a week.
Ooh. You ever find it hard to force yourself into a stopping point?
Yeah, it's called 3 o'clock in the morning, and you can't see straight, and you're like, "What am I still doing here? Can I drive home?" Yeah.
That's the problem that I have with studio class projects is that, you know, I get to 1, 2 a.m. in the morning, and I just can't force myself to
It's like I'm almost there, man.
leave
I'm
well
almost there.
enough alone. I
Almost
always
there.
want to keep going, pushing it to see if there's a one extra thing I can do to really make it complete.
Yeah.
But even if I do that, I still can't
Yeah.
break away from it.
It's a special thing, this studio thing. And I've found the longer I am away from my studio, I can manage about 3 months to be away, but then I have to start making stuff again, or I get kind of nutsy. I have to do something, and it's definitely this is why I get up in the morning. This is the thing I do, and embracing that is a difficult thing to come to. Being like, okay, this is really what I'm supposed to do. Now figure out how to do it and live. And I think for most artists, that's a lot of it. And that's why people end up at Starbucks, because and you have to be creative about marketing yourself. And and that takes time. You know, I mean, studio time doesn't necessarily just mean making time. It means marketing time. It's education time.
Does that part ever seem like too much of a job?
No, not yet, and no, I never did before, because it's a part of the gratification of the job. Because if you just stay in your studio and make stuff all the time, then
You've got a studio full of stuff.
Yeah, and you never get any feedback.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're just in your studio by yourself. So I feel like the sailing part of your work and the business end of it keeps you kind of grounded and focused. Because if you're making, I mean, I make things for me, but I also know sometimes that there are certain things, if I made them, I would never eat. So you have to have that balance between making things that you love, but making things that are also fit for consumer areas.
Yeah.
And you know, I used to be a functional potter completely.
It's kind of one of the things that we go over in our Art in Appalachia class, especially back during the days of the Great Road, and then especially during the Crafts revival. It's, do you want to make something that's good enough for you or good enough for the mass market, so you can actually make money and provide a living for you and your family, and how you balance the two out.
Yeah, well, and a lot of people I know, they make the functional stuff and then they work on the sculptural stuff. But I've been blessed enough to be able to almost transition completely into sculpture from the more mundane thrown brown pots that people like to buy sometimes. But I still have a healthy balance. I'm always drawn back and forth between the two, and I think that's what keeps both of the things alive for me. And you keep referring back to the Great Road, and I think about it, and I think
Trying to get brownie points.
No, this might actually help you a little bit. Being from Harrisonburg, Virginia, my family originally came over in the late 1700s.
Yep.
And after I became a potter, which is a weird, because I call myself a ceramic artist now, but when I started making pots, an uncle of mine came to me and said, "Hey, did you know that your great-great-great-grandfather was one of the first potters in the Shenandoah Valley?" And I said, "Well, no, I don't. No, I had no idea." And we started joking about it being in the blood. And it's actually, he pulled out a book, and I didn't realize that my whole life I had grown up with my family's pottery. It was just always there, just stuff that was hanging around. And his name was
Didn't really think twice about it.
No, it was just my grandmother was
Just
kind of like
there.
into antiques. My whole family's antique collectors. You know, knew everything you could know about picking up a vase and looking at the bottom and knowing if it was worth anything or not. You know, and So I started looking into that and seeing that this man named Andrew Kaufman was indeed my bazillion-year-old great-grandfather who disappeared right around the
Andy
Civil War.
Kaufman, the comedian?
Andrew.
Oh, Andrew.
No, 1860 something or another. I don't think he's there.
No.
But yeah, that was an interesting thing to find out, and starting to look through the records of how that worked with the Great Road, because Harrisonburg does exist right on Route 11.
Mm-hmm.
And I grew up on Route 11, so it's always been that thing where the Vimies would march up and down to the Civil War reenactments. And finding pottery shards was always a part of life, and every time somebody tilled the garden, you'd find more Flow Blue stuff. And looking at the way the Great Road, as you talk about it, affected my family's livelihood way back in the way back was pretty interesting. And to see what they were making and see how they were marketing it. Because
that would actually be interesting to know about your own family. All I know is that we're Scottish, and a little bit of mutt mixed in, Euro mutt.
Euro mutt, nice.
Yeah.
And we were French-German, came through Maryland and then down into Virginia, and actually into West Virginia as well. And some of my family, until a couple years ago, had a King George land grant in West Virginia. So we've been around all the great wars. Daughter of the Confederacy, daughter of the Revolution, all that. But you I guess when your family's been around that long, and it starts, like I said, that piece of pottery or two that just hung around and are worth thousands of dollars, they're there.
Yeah.
They just are. So that's always been interesting to me, to think about like how I work in my studio and how Andrew Kaufman was working in his studio, and how a lot of things have not changed in that almost 200 years. We're still using a lot of the same principles, and I find that interesting because I've really reverted in my own work back to some more archaic, as some people would see, practices, and collecting my own clay from all over the country and processing it by hand and using it. So.
Which I guess was kind of shown in your.
Am I foreshadowing more questions?
Nah. But the collecting of the different types of clay from across the country, that kind of harkens back to your exhibit at the Tipton.
Yeah, it does, and that all started here though in East Tennessee. That whole collection process. My first clay, wild clay as we like to call it, collection happened out at Watauga Lake, and it was a class project, and I had never done this before. I was like, what am I doing? So in the snow, I'm out there with a shovel at the lake. Found some of the brownest stuff. I did not find orange dirt. I wanted to find something that was not orange, because everything around here is orange clay. So I found brown and started testing it, and became fascinated with the fact that I could be outside doing what I love doing, which is being outside, and finding materials to use in my studio. So that was an interesting moment in life. Like, hey, light bulb, woo!
Yeah, I think we saw a lot of deep orangish brown clay during spring break when we went over to Old Fort and
all that iron, all that acid clay.
Yeah,
and that's what this area is known for. It's just it's crazy. So this area started that for me, and now I've taken it across the country, and it's something that my career will probably be based on for the rest of my life. It's pretty amazing. Good old Tennessee. Thank you, Don Davis, for teaching me how to find wild clay.
And we'll just move on down the list here. Did you have another job before you got involved with your current artistic work? And
well, I've always, we've talked about before, gosh, I can't remember not making work. There was a 2-year stint when I worked at a bank. That was awful.
Oh, you?
Yeah, I was a bank teller. Woo-hoo. I've done it all. I've really done everything. So, I guess since the first time I started my own business, I was 20. when I started that first business.
Mm-hmm.
And I may have waited tables here and there, but I tried to quit for 2 years thinking, I needed to do something real. So I got that bank teller job. It was awful. Woo, it was bad. I was a legal secretary. I still made pots though. Let's see. I've done everything.
River guide?
No.
No?
That's something I thought was. I've done a lot of river travel, but I've never been a guide myself. It was always something I said that if ceramics didn't work out, that it was what I was going to do. But I am lucky enough now to have married a man who is a river guide. So I don't have to do it, but I get to go.
But you're still the crazy mountain biker,
Yes.
mountain bike lady,
Yes,
huh?
still a crazy mountain bike lady. Have skied all winter. Learned to snow bike.
Snow bike.
Yep, snow bike. It's like a mountain bike on skis.
Uh,
Talk about, I'm still not sure how I feel about it, but when you, that's where you live and your husband teaches that.
Sounds like it
you
would
learn
be
to do
hard to
it.
get health insurance if...
We don't have any of that anyway. Thank you. We don't have that anyway. No, we just practice not getting hurt. It's pretty special.
Well, imagine me having to tell everybody that I have seizures.
Yeah, it's fun.
I
Hey,
get a heck of a lot of no's.
Yeah, well, hey, I have
Thank
MS.
you, ETSU student health insurance.
I have MS, and it's the same way.
Nope,
I
yeah.
understand. Trust me. ETSU health insurance. We won't talk about that. But yeah, you just practice not getting sick.
Yeah.
And trying not to get sick and taking care of yourself.
I'll try not to take out another gas station with an automobile. So.
Yeah, please don't do that.
Yeah, I'll try not to.
But yeah, I think I forget the question now. That's what I forget. See, short-term memory loss.
No, just other jobs before you got involved.
Well, it's been jobs while I was involved. It's never before.
And then do you have another job now?
Yeah,
But we know you're teaching.
I'm teaching, and I do have 2 other jobs in Colorado, and they will allow me to have a studio.
You currently have 2 other jobs.
Well, I
in
just
Colorado.
came back 3 days ago.
Well, yeah.
I've been busy. Well, no, it's seasonal. It's so seasonal out there that in the summer I work for a catering business.
Oh, okay.
And I'm going back to the coffee shop job that I had. So, which is also it's a couple days a week here and there, but it'll allow me to work in my studio and go out and explore and collect clay and do the things that I do that keep me sane.
Mm-hmm.
I really feel like I say that keeping me sane thing, but I feel like our society really doesn't allow for a lot of mental health time or
No, they
careers
don't.
that keep people healthy. And I found no joy or anything sitting behind a desk. So this is what I do, and I make it work. Where there's a will, there's a way, right?
Exactly. You do that, and I do professional
Wrestling.
wrestling. So that's
Which I have always.
that in art school is kind of a weird combination.
But it's part of it. You can design your costumes. It's kind of like, it always makes me think of Nacho Libre. I'm sorry. It's just kind of how he's like going through the house, like ripping the tablecloth out.
Yeah, we had we've got another personality. We'll say not character, but personality. That he was here in the art department a couple of years ago, and he now does some sort of graphic work for Eastman. So he was able to parlay that, and he still wrestles, or he's about to wrestle. But we won't get into
Yeah.
that. That's a whole different conversation.
It all happens on the precipice of wrestling. I like that word, precipice.
And we talked a little bit about where you get your materials. Well,
All over the
you're always
place.
scouting out for clay.
Wild clay. And high water in North Carolina is where I get a lot of my base materials, like for my casting slips and stuff. Imported things and stuff. But I'd really like to completely switch to all found. It's cheaper.
And I don't know a lot about ceramics and clay, but up and down Highway 11, you've got these highway side, dirt for sale. Is there ever any good clay in that?
I've really not stopped and looked. A lot of them are just straight up orange clay, but because they're fill dirt, not topsoil. No. But dirt and clay, it's funny, are very different. They are, one's sticky, one's muddy.
Yeah,
and it's kind of fun because I've stopped along the side of the road because, like, in my thesis, goodness, I'm thinking about that. I state that I don't dig for clay. I find it. I visually sight it. And I've done that from about 25 miles away before. It's pretty amazing when you look over and you see a rock face or a cliff and you're like, ooh, I know what that is. And so you're trying to drive through the middle of nowhere to figure out how to get to it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is one of the perks about living out west. Things are a little more open.
Yeah, a little
so
bit.
You can see that far. But here, it's pretty amazing to drive even over to Banner Elk when you're leaving this area, like through the Watauga area and over that way to see alongside the road. And I'm always seeing clay. Once you know what it looks like, you don't see it. You see everywhere. I see dead people. I see clay.
We were kind of in a unique position with our cabin over spring break in Old Fort, North Carolina, because we were right on the edge of the mountains. So we had, to one side of us, we had mountains everywhere. Mm-hmm. And then the other side was 2 or 3 more ridges of mountains, and then it was
flat.
All of a sudden Piedmont.
Yeah.
And as far as you can see, 3, 4, 5 power plants just off in the distance.
Yeah.
Which
it's kind of creepy. And that was the thing when I first moved to Colorado from these mountains that I'd lived in all my life, whether it be in Virginia or here. I'd never left the mountains. And moving out west, I lived on what they call a front range. It was right before the mountains.
Mm-hmm.
So it was full ladder and I'll get out. And that was really intimidating to me. I kept seeing those mountains. I wanted to get in them. So, I guess that's a part of me that'll never leave. I don't want to leave the mountains. I like the bigger ones. They're really cool. But now when I look out my window, I see the Continental Divide. So that's pretty crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I got married on the Continental Divide.
Mm-hmm.
So that was awesome. In the middle of a snowstorm.
The most recent one?
Yeah. Yes.
It was over break, wasn't it?
Yep. New Year's Eve, definitely.
I think that's what Sandra told me. I didn't know it was New Year's Eve.
Yeah, New Year's Eve. We
might have told
climbed the Continental Divide at 12,000 plus feet and got married.
Wow.
And the sun came out just in time for us to exchange our vows, and then it started snowing like the Dickens again. It's crazy. It was awesome. Yeah. It was a good time. Chocolate cake and mimosas at the bottom, and tequila shots in town. But art is a big part of my life, no matter where I've gone, and it always will be. So definitely.
This next question, we already know the answer to this for the most part. Do you ever teach your art or craft? Well, of course.
Well, yeah, I've taught here for 2 semesters, but before that, I did. I did in-service recertification credit hours for school teachers in Roanoke County. I've done small little workshops. What else do I do? I've done other things. It's pretty random. I do the Honors College here once a year. I have them for 2 nights in a semester. And
what goes on there?
I teach them. I come up with a project. This last time we built cups and mugs and different things, and then they fired. Then they came back and I fired them for them, and they had something actually to take away with them. And we from things like that, activities like that, we got 4 or 5 new students in the program.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's really fun for me to kind of step outside of my humdrum thing and have to think about how to teach 20 people to do something in 3 hours.
Yeah.
But that worked because I had done some, when I was an undergrad, I did an internship in Philadelphia at the Clay Center. and they work a lot with incarcerated youths in Philadelphia and a lot of other outreach programs within the city. And I learned through that program how to develop and execute projects quickly. So that was a pretty fantastic experience.
Yeah. Probably
So
shouldn't use incarcerate and execute in the same sentence. But
well,
hey.
they didn't execute it. They actually deported them to Texas.
Oh.
Yes. So we had to get the stuff back to them pretty quickly. But yeah, you know, I think, and I've done this. I've assisted classes here and done different things. And it's always a learning experience for me, which I like, and it's also kind of a grounding experience to figure out, you know, how I fit in the world with other people. And do I really want to teach? Which the answer is no, probably not.
That was the next question.
No, not until I'm old. And old, I mean like about to die. No, I really
Like old like me.
No, like old, like 70, like 80, maybe never. No, my dream in life has always been just to be a studio potter, and maybe to have a small gallery, and have a co-op, like an artist co-op.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and kind of head up something like that. That was something I designed.
So kind of combine your efforts for the greater good.
Yeah, and that's why I have that degree in nonprofit organization management.
Wow.
Oh yes, and I've done a lot. I've done
It all fits together.
It does, and I've done it very deliberately through my education to gear myself toward that. Because you know, I think art isn't a solo endeavor. It's a community thing.
Mm-hmm.
And without that community, I mean, it keeps your costs down. It keeps your mind working. It inspires you. It gives you some reason to keep going. Because sometimes being an artist isn't easy, and you need somebody behind you going, you know what, you're fine. Shut up. Take a walk. Just go take a walk. You know, or just a way to get your work out there, a marketing tool.
Right.
Like I mentioned, the 16 Hands before, they started over 30 years ago together in a community. They don't all live together, but they order supplies together. They have sales together. You know, and they advertise together, so it really takes a lot of the cost, which is pretty phenomenal, away from just one single person. Because, you know, I don't think you can really exist, especially not in the world like it is, without a community.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of other situations like that are sprung up around the country. It's not a commune. Everybody lives about 10 miles away from each other, you know, but you have that buddy to have dinner with and say, hey, look at my new pot. Oh man, that looks like crap. Or wow, how'd you do that? And it keeps that kind of learning environment that I feel like I would enjoy for the rest of my life. So I guess part of that could be teaching in a way, because you have workshops and do things. But I think
it's like collective teaching. And
I think our new goal, though, moving into the Colorado area, is going to be a bed and breakfast that's an arts destination as well as a sports outdoor destination. So different workshops for the art side of it, and then offering like outdoor, like depending what season it is, ski packages, or that is me.
Okay.
My computer. 9 minutes. Different things like that, and figuring out how to make that work as a way to live.
Mm-hmm.
Organic gardening.
All hippie stuff.
All that hippie crap. But you know, all that hippie crap keeps me alive. I don't really feel like it's too hippie. I still like my...
I wore my hippie shirt yesterday.
Oh dear.
The hippies use side door shirt.
I love that.
But I bought it at Mass General Store.
See?
A hippie friendly store.
A hippie friendly store. That's so funny. I guess I just answered your next question too.
Yeah.
I will say that I do identify, like you've said before, kind of jokingly, but I do identify with the culture and the lifestyle more in Colorado than I do here in East Tennessee. I could see... No, I belong out there. And I've lived out here long enough that I kind of feel more comfortable. Yeah. There's a more sense of the can-do spirit out there, is what I've really felt. Here it's kind of like I have to.
Yeah.
Or I maybe I will, might get around to that. But out there, it's like, yeah, that's a great idea. Go for it. And
Which is weird because it's weird to me because when I lived in Atlanta for 15 years and then suddenly had my accident and had to move back here, I thought to myself, I belong in Atlanta. But more and more, I don't really miss it.
see, that's the way I feel about
I
it.
tried,
When I leave here.
for my first 18 years, I wanted to get the hell out of the Tri-Cities.
Yeah.
Going to Knoxville was a huge move for me. But
Wow. I've seen, and that's a different part of this area than what I'm used to. It's more like where I grew up, is that you are in this small community, and that's kind of where you stayed. And the ones of us that left were the brave ones or something crazy. But I think that mindset kind of changed for me from moving from that small community into Roanoke, which is it's the largest city in Southwest Virginia. I mean, there's enough going on there that it makes you want more.
Right.
And I've always been, I think it's genetics that make me want to travel. So coming to Johnson City, I really tried to like it here, but I think this area, I've heard a lot of people say that it reminds them of Asheville, like 30 years ago. But they said that 30 years ago too. But there's something about this area that keeps holding itself back. And I've seen a lot of that.
yeah, they definitely, especially Kingsport. Being from Kingsport, they want to hold on to what it was 30 years ago. And 30 years ago, they wanted to hold on to what it was 30 years before that.
Yeah, and those horse and buggies still aren't there, but they try to make them be there. And
everything closes down by 9 p.m.
And it still does. You know, I live in a teeny tiny little town, and I love my neighbors, and it feels more eclectic there than it does in Johnson City. If I were to stay in this area, I would definitely go probably over the mountain to North Carolina.
Yeah.
Maybe back closer to Bristol. There's an amazing woman, Susan Strike, that works out of Bristol, and she's a phenomenal painter and sculptor, and I feel like there's a little bit more going on there. I think that this area has great potential, but I don't see me in part of that potential.
Yeah.
I like to ski. I like being cold. I like the dry weather. There's some interesting questions you have here. It says, how would I describe the arts and crafts community here in East Tennessee? I feel like it's making a change. I feel like
it's trying to, slowly but surely.
We have some people in the area, I think, some new additions to ETSU, some people that have stuck it out here, that are making it better and better for us. I mean, Catherine Murray, the director, or the chair of the department, she's phenomenal, and she's an amazing advocate for a lot of things that people don't realize are going on. And I think Andrew Scott Ross coming to ETSU has done a lot for the department. It's kind of a fresh perspective. Him and his wife. Travis Graves, I've mentioned before. Incredibly motivated individuals who are always there to lend an ear and to help and to be around. Don Davis, my own mentor in the department. It's just, I got to go to Italy for free.
Hey, that's all right.
And there's a lot of travel experience that's available here to get you outside of the area. And I really feel like if things stay as strong as they are with Carlotta from the Slocum Galleries, if those people stay as active and as involved as they are, that this place is going to do it, put our little names on the map, so to speak.
Yep. So do you think it's an advantage or a disadvantage to be an artist in East Tennessee?
I think that depends on what your goal is. I mean, I think it's sort of a disadvantage because it's in this place that people have only heard about in a song, and that the demographic here...
Don't bring up Wagon Wheel.
Oh, I lived in both of those times. Think about how crappy that is for me. I moved from one place to the other in that same song. It's kind of creepy. But,
Did you ever live in the Cumberland Gap, though?
No, but I've driven through it in the middle of the night. Scary.
East and west
by
through the
yourself,
Cumberland Gap?
By yourself. Crazy scary. In the middle of the night, 2 o'clock in the morning, Cumberland Gap. Boo.
Imagine going up there and going and being in the middle of a pro wrestling crowd.
That's weird.
Yeah, it is.
That's weird. See, you're stranger than I am. So I think it has cheap land advantage, clientele not so good, getting yourself out there.
Yeah.
If you went over to Asheville and you could start making that connection down in
Definitely.
Knoxville, Nashville. So I think it's a weird part of the country for art. I think it's good, but it's weird.
Mm-hmm.
But every place.
Asheville helps. Definitely.
Asheville definitely helps. So I think that's a pretty non-committal question answer. I like with no comment, right? It's like,
Plead the fifth.
I don't know. This is the next one's fun.
Yeah. How do you currently price and market your work?
Well, it's word of mouth right now and a little bit of internet, and the pricing is always difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot of guessing. Thinking about how much time and effort and materials are into things.
As opposed to what,
Charges.
guessing what you would think people would pay?
Yeah. It's about being real about what you need to get out of your work, not like pricing it to sell just to sell it, because then you just kind of most of the time wouldn't be giving stuff away because people are cheap.
Oh, yeah.
I am not Walmart. I do not have golden arches. But in that mentality, getting people away from the Walmart mentality is always an interesting. Well, why do I want to pay that much for that? I have heard that in that tone of voice. I'm not just mocking.
Yeah,
someone.
I know.
And it's not just been here. It's other places in the country, and putting the value. I think as artists, part of our job is to make people or have that value of handmade goods be recognized. And there are whole movements based around that.
Yeah. A few months ago, I went to an exhibit at the Renaissance Center in Kingsport, and they had paintings in there, two specific artists, but had paintings in there for $7,000-8,000, and truth be told, you're not going to sell anything like that in Kingsport.
No, but they're trying to. But if you start putting the stuff out there, it's like if I sold a pot.
Well, yeah, you never will if you don't put it out there.
No, and that'll pay your bills for 6 months.
Yeah.
You can pay mine for longer than that probably, because you learn to be very, very responsible, or not with your money, and learn how to starve well. But yeah, I think that kind of that leads into that next question you have there. I'm just reading ahead a little bit because it's funny we're just already talking about
I just got to restart the camera.
Oh, did we already do it?
Yeah,
See, we
already
did
did
an hour.
Jabbering and jabbering. Let's see here.